Hello and welcome to Conversations with Masters on the topic of receiving. This is part one of a two-part series where the Masters will be discussing the topic of receiving. Everyone on this call is an enlightened master who agreed to participate in this conversation and share their wisdom and experiences around this topic. Our intention with these conversations is to help others and look at many topics from a higher perspective. You can seek out most of these masters participating in these Conversation with Master series. They all have unique gifts and some of them offer services. Please look them up so you may learn more about what they offer. They are identified, including their websites, in the comment section below. As I stated, today we will discuss what does it mean to receive and how can we become masters at receiving. So let's get started. Many of us are quite adept at giving and perhaps not as adept at receiving. And one thing we know about receiving is that giving and receiving is the same energy. I've noticed that even those coming from a non-spiritual background or from perspective too have a difficult time receiving. They feel that they cannot accept gifts or a token gesture of goodwill from others without feeling that they're not worthy or feeling that they have to reciprocate in some way. And many spiritual light workers feel they're in service to give and struggle with the receiving end of it. On a recent call, the council, channeled through Sarah Landon, which you can always find at sarahlandon.com, stated the following. When you say you simply cannot take the ode with the new you just can't take the ode into the new. Sorry, I messed that up a little bit. I mistyped how they said it. You cannot take the old limited beliefs, the old ways of being powerless, the old ways of giving away your power, the old ways of thinking, the old ways of holding yourself. Stop the old ways of holding yourself in separation. You just simply can't take them with you. When you embody your power, when you embody all you've become, when you embody your well-being and abundance, and you start from there, full, filled up, satiated, having given so much to yourself, then you're not surrendering every day. You're just open, open, open to receive, 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 receive. All the inspiration, all the creative energy will flow to you. It will just be the next step to the next step to the next step. Things become choiceless and doors open and doors open and doors open. So that's like an elevated view of receiving. But I think that receiving in general, as I stated earlier, is something that is not as easy for people as giving. And it's not, some people maybe never master the art of receiving. So how do we receive? What does it mean to receive? So fellow masters, what's your perspective on receiving and why is it important?
Sandy, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I think receiving is the most challenging one during the manifestation procedure, as far as I'm concerned, because of not enough trust to receive. Trust is very important that you will receive what you were asking for at the first place. And secondly, keeping your vibration level high with the same level that what would you like to receive. Imagine you are in a high rise and they are giving gifts away on the 7th floor and you are on the ground floor. Your vibration doesn't match with what you're asking for because you don't trust the creator. You don't trust the universe. You don't trust the God himself. So you have doubts about that, either gonna come or not. So when you do that, so you delay the receiving. So FedEx or UPS cannot find your address to deliver the goods to you because your address not exist because you don't vibrate enough to stand on the map, to show your location and give your coordination to the universe. I am here. That's my message. And here I am looking for it. I am waiting for it. And I trust you. Can be now, can be 2 days from now, maybe a year later. I know, I trust you. I know you, and I will receive one day. So what I do is I keep vibrating high on that level. So I make the receiving easier for whoever bringing that message to me. Sometimes receiving can be in different ways. Sometimes can come to us with guidance. We should also open the guidance to actually take us where to receive and how to receive. So it's pretty much requires a open heart and clear mind and trust and choose. Choosing wisdom is the key. Choosing infinite wisdom is the key. So it will take us to receive infinite abundance, infinite well-being, infinite love, infinite beauty. That's all I would like to share at this moment. So thank you.
I love that practical analogy and how you use like that you're on the first floor and they're delivering something to the 7th floor level. If you're on the first floor, they're not going to find you. I also like the analogy of the UPS too. They gotta find you.
Yeah, same thing when we ask for a guidance or help from the spirit realms or angelic realms. So sometimes we don't get that help because they vibrate higher and we vibrate lower, so we can receive the guidance.
I think, Blissa, did you want to?
So we need to really, I'm sorry, yeah. So we need to have gratitude for everything, raise our vibration, and make sure our heart is full of love. Thank you.
You're on mute, Blissa.
I agree. And I also really appreciate those analogies. Beautiful. I've been holding receiving as, you know, since it's the focus of today's call. And something that I wanted to share that has been really valuable for me in the practice of receiving is something that I learned in my NIA training, which is this movement that I teach and share. And it's the container. So in NIA, it's very important that we became aware of what receiving and transmitting felt like energetically. And there's a very key and important part of receiving, which is that you're like the circle, you're open and available to receive. So you don't, like, if there's chaos or there's ideas, if somebody's speaking and you're just thinking of all the ways you want to respond to them, you're not truly receiving all that they're sharing. And then the same, working with that same idea, when you're communicating something, you're communicating it with clarity, with direct energy, and that way there's not a bunch of chaos coming. So there's this, you know, like kids, right? But there's this circle, and that's that feminine aspect as well. We can see as like when we become open to receive, we can really receive the transmission. And so that when I'm in a conversation with someone, I really bring awareness to clearing the plate, like being open to receive what they're bringing and not what I think they might say next or what's coming. However, as I was listening to Ahmet, this one little piece came in that I felt was an important piece of receiving in my life as well. And it was this, I have this lovely girlfriend. She's beautiful and she's very stylish. And when somebody pays her a compliment, she always pauses and says, "Thank you." And I was reminded of this by another friend. And I realized that that is so important, that we really receive from that place of thank you, of taking it in. And in doing so, as much as we all, I think, you know, those of us who are gravitating into this type of work, we want to give. And there's a giving in the receiving, and just saying, thank you. And it acknowledges the one who's giving. And that's more like in the world as we interact. But those are important things. I felt like it was really important to teach that to my daughters and their friends. I reminded them they know this woman as well, and she has so much flair. And it's like when you say, wow, I love that coat, and then she just says, thank you. She doesn't say, oh, I got it at the thrift store for $5. Can you believe it? No, it's just thank you. And it has a sensory experience with it. So that's like less in the spiritual aspects, but in the actual like embodiment of receiving.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like this is more than just the spiritual conversation. And that's why I said at the beginning, even coming from a not spiritual, I notice, and probably because this is something a few years ago that I started in my own life, just like you said, learning to say thank you when someone gives you a compliment and accepting it, because you're giving someone a gift by doing that as well. Just like when you give someone something, you get pleasure out of the giving. And if someone rejects it, it's not as fun for you. But yeah, I think that's important too. So that's why I think we're doing this as a two-part series. I think because there's so much here, both from a very basic human that we're not trained or masters or at receiving, as well as from that very higher elevated level. And like Ahmet brought that up, what you could really, for lack of a better word, what you could get if you're completely open and allow and receive from an amazing spiritual level, way above our wildest dreams, what we can even imagine.
Yeah. This focus helped me to look at my own practice, where I've really been feeling, I received this download of the sensation of being a lighthouse. And it's been very palpable. And it reminded me that the lighthouse needs the fuel, needs the energy. So there is, even in that sense, like it's almost so much external release of love and light into the world, but there always needs to be that energy coming in. You cannot just exhale, you must inhale. And so it was like a great reminder to look at the whole picture of how receiving is so entwined with giving. You must do both. That's where the balance comes in. That's where the flow of energy really grows and expands, where it can do that.
Awesome. I love that.
Andy, there's another part that for receiving that often is overlooked. Each one of us has our own personality, and with our personality come various filters by which we are taking in whatever we're taking in, whether it be from a voice, from vision, from taste, touch, smell. There's so much that we are not seeing. We're not actually seeing what's coming in. We're seeing it through the filters of our personality. So when it's talking about receiving, it also requires us to be aware that we aren't getting an unfiltered reception of whatever is coming our way, but that it is going through our interpretation. And so to have enough self-awareness to say, wow, let me think of it a second time or perhaps a third time, because what they're saying may first cause a reaction in me that it's hit a filter where there might be a trigger, or that I may interpret it this way because this is how I look at things. But if you take a look at it a second time and start to receive things with self-awareness and say, wow, this is what, and then confirm it. Is this what you're wanting to share? Is this how you're wanting to be understood? Then you actually can take it in as they intend it, rather than taking it in as you intend it. There's a lot of power to that, of understanding yourself well enough to take it and understand the filters through which you're receiving it. And it's important. It's really helped me a lot when I've had communications, because I've seen a lot of times where my first impression of what someone has said has actually not been what they're intending to say.
That is so true. That's really an interesting perspective, I think, from the filter, because we're always going to filter at some level, right? Even if you're trying not to. So I
Right.
think that self-awareness is to know at the time, because you're right. There's so many times I've said something or communicated something, and someone might have heard it completely different than ever was my intention. And I know it's the same way, vice versa. So yeah, I like that. Think about the filter of it. Because if you can remove that filter and it is a gift, however they say it, then they're going to receive more of what that gift is.
Yeah, I really think once the vibration gets higher, I think that's what's happening with us. That love is coming in to where those filters are slowly dissipating. Not that they will be there, but it's almost like you're aware of it. And so you're actually getting more of the pure message in than you ever were before. You're not getting it blocked by certain beliefs or ways of how you interpret and understand what's being shared. I really feel that more often as my vibration has increased, my love has grown, that I'm understanding people more easily, more freely than I was before.
Yeah, it's almost like it's the filter even can be, if you're just starting out practicing this tool, the filter could be like a huge wall. Like if you're talking about this, I'm thinking these people if you have a huge wall around you and people are trying to come in and give you whatever it is, gratitude, love, admiration, respect, whatever it is, if you have this huge wall, you're not going to be able to receive any of that. Hopefully, the more expanded you become, that wall becomes just a filter. But yeah, so many people, it appears to me, seem to have even this wall when it comes to receiving. They just, even from the standpoint of there's someone that for her birthday, I did something kind of special for her with a friend. And all she talks about since then is, oh, I have to pay you all this back. I have to take you to dinner. I have to do this. I have to do this. Or she couldn't even accept just that gesture for her birthday without feeling like she's got it, like pay back. And that's not receiving if you feel like you owe someone for it. And that's it.
Yeah, it's reflective of a belief and filter.
Right.
A filter, there's a string attached to whatever's being given. And that string needs to go back the other way. And so that's just one of the filters we have, that we have to somehow give back. We never can just totally just receive, because that would not be fair. We're being greedy or this or that. That's really easy to have happen. So the more open we can be about, hey, wow, and reflect on our own reactions, initial reactions, the more we will gain great wisdom from what is being received, as well as in wisdom about how it's all reflecting. Because if you have the wall around you, and most anything's coming at you will feel like a threat, right? Because you put the wall to avoid threats.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, at the most basic level. And it's really, and at the most basic, and I only use that as example, not to pick on my friend who this experience, but I see that, and I've seen it for a long time, more often than not with people. And I think maybe the first step is just even knowing that you have a difficult time receiving, knowing that you might have those filters, knowing that you might have a wall out there.
Sandy,
yes,
I came across this really beautiful quote from Rumi, and and I'll just read it out now. If you wish for light, be ready to receive light. And I read that, and what comes to me is that how many people, including myself in my journey, I was not ready to receive light. I had those filters, just like Troy was speaking about, those filters that deemed me as unworthy to receive the light. What else does not ready mean? You don't trust it, just like what Ahmet said. You don't trust in yourself. You don't feel you're capable of receiving the light. Yeah, we are beings of, that's what we are. We are beings of love and light. So we are, if we reverse engineer ourselves to who we really are, we are beings of love and light, right? So whatever else there is, whatever other filters and walls that come up, they are inhibiting us from receiving, and as well as giving, but more so in receiving. I had this beautiful gift that was given to me at the end of last year, and that was a gift of healing a heart, you know, a heart of a fellow human. And I would say 100% of the time of the practicing of this healing onto another, the receptive, the receiving, the feminine heart, part of the heart, is what is depleted and decayed, and it's just closed off, essentially. And for myself personally, what I saw for my heart, I had to meet my heart where it was at that time, at that moment. And I actually saw a wall around my heart. And I didn't know that. I didn't realize I had a wall around my heart. And I have realized the importance of being heart focused, is always coming from the heart, thinking from the heart, speaking from the heart, even hearing and feeling from the heart as often and as many times as I can throughout the day. Because when you feel and when you start living from the heart, then being a receptive being of love and light just happens so much more seamlessly and choicelessly. And that's another way that you can raise your vibration as well, because you're just heart-based. It's heart consciousness. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
That's beautiful. Can you say that quote one more time from Rumi? I love Rumi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll read it. If you wish, I'll say it again. Yeah. If you wish for light, be ready to receive light.
That's perfect. I know. So, Sophia, you've been doing your sacred, if I get the name right, sacred heart healings. Isn't that it? Correct?
It's cosmic heart healing.
Cosmic heart healing. I knew that what it was and how wonderful it is. And
that's how I received it as.
What an expert
that's
you are.
what,
I just I didn't
came
have the name
through.
right.
That's okay.
It's really good.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So true. Like, so part of getting to that 7-4 that Ahmet talked about is having your heart be open. I mean, I think we talked about this when we were talking about, was it with allowing Blissa, when like sometimes we have to start, or one of our other subjects we did, that some not everybody's at the same level. Some people are at our higher, they're expanded higher. Not that any of us are better than anyone else. That's not what we're trying to say. But people are different levels of vibration and different levels of consciousness. And we're all going to get there. So some people need to start paying attention that how they are with receiving. And obviously one of the places we're going to get to that 7-4 where they deliver the goodies, and opening our heart sounds like a great place to start.
I think
that, oh, go ahead.
Go. I was just gonna say that the wall is like the walls that we build up, or that we have before we start to really realize that we can shift that. It's like density. And so as we raise our personal frequency, more can come through. There's more space. And we can do, there's so many ways that we can clear those walls out. And also it's kind of like a practice on some level. You can clear a wall, and then maybe something triggers and a wall comes back in, and it has to do with vulnerability and being really present with what is happening, like in your emotional body. But there's this density is like how I see the wall. And then when we raise our frequency, there's spaciousness created. And soon, like Ahmet was describing, we come into a higher frequency, then there's nothing our hearts are open, and there's nothing that's blocking us from receiving. We can really do that.
That just feels like such a yummy place every time y'all talk about it. When Ahmet talks about it, bring it up again. It just feels It feels so yummy. I was thinking at this point, it's like we're receiving love just in this moment. It feels very, very, very lovely.
Yeah, it's like as we speak of it, it feels so appropriate to be in such a receptive place. I can feel the whole group is really like still and open. It's like we're going right there.
So that's right, yeah.
That I worked out. This is on the level of the examples that Sandy gave and Blissa gave about their friends, and something I worked out about receiving. See if I can explain this, but I remember the process of figuring out that receiving something because you need it, that you can do some fine tuning. So needing something and getting something you need is not as high a vibration. There's just a higher vibration of receiving. So what I was talking about, for example, Blissa's friend, that says thank you, but if you needed a compliment or attention or recognition, and so you wore the appropriate, I forgot what you said, maybe a gown or coat or something. If you wore that for the purpose of getting the compliment or getting the attention or to be recognized or to be given credit, for your choice or something. So it's the same. I mean, you took an action and you received something, but it feels a lot different doing it that way than having it reflect, your appreciation, having it reflect because you truly feel that you can, whatever the lady did, she truly enjoyed her style, or, she does it for herself, because it's a deep just reflection or extension of yourself. And then for someone to recognize it, it feels like, oh, but when you need it, it feels like, man, I got that fix. And then you have to turn around and go get another one. Then you got to worry about, well, what am I going to wear now? How am I going to get my next fix? And it feels like relief. Like when you get something that you need, it's like, oh, a little relief. Oh, I got that. Oh, but then you got to go do it again. You got to, go get another hit or another fix or another, relief. So the way I remember that, I don't know if y'all have heard, I think I've shared it with this group, that sometimes I have to boil down my lessons into real simple phrases so that I could remember them. And the way I boiled down that lesson was, okay, am I training a monkey? Am I training, what doing this? And then I'm going to, it's like, well, you could train a monkey, to then give you something or do something for you, or, that. And that's how I catch myself, that's how I remember that. Is it really pure, coming from purity, or is there a little bit of this feeling needing to train a monkey?
That's great. Sharon, I love your distinction between coming from a need for that to receive something, even a compliment or attention or whatever it is, as opposed to just coming from being completely filled. And so that those compliments just feel like little fairy kisses or whatever. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, it has a totally different feeling. Yeah.
So where you're coming from, and then coming from me is very dense. So if you're dense, you're not going to be on the first floor, like Ahmet said. You're not going to be on the third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh floor. And then I like too that you brought up, you talked about you're doing it for yourself. So that's what I think that quote from the council at the beginning, you have to be fully satiated too. And it's okay to do stuff for yourself and to be filled. And if you're giving to others, you give to yourself too. So that's part of receiving too, is giving to yourself. So if you're fully satiated, you're not coming from that lower density of need.
Yeah, I think that's where self-love comes in. Because when you love yourself, you're worthy of yourself. And when you're worthy of yourself, you know your power. And when you know your power, then you know that there's nothing else for you to do or strive for. You are just that. And you're just a receptive. You're so receptive, aren't you? Receiving and giving, and it just flows in, it flows out, and it's just all, what did you say, Sandy? It's all, you said a word, yummy.
Yummy. I said yummy. I said yummy, then I'm like,
sounds all yummy. Yeah, and I think that when Blissa was talking about her friend, I just thought, well, she's just sounds like this sovereign, like beautiful woman who beautiful inside, because she knows her worth. And I think she knows what it is to love herself.
And she may radiate that so much. She may in a physical not be the most beautiful woman on the planet, but she already radiates so much love because she's so filled inside with love for
and
self.
that's what I meant.
Yes,
yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the example she shows. It's like she knows her worth and loves herself. And that's why it feels so important to share that, like with the teenagers, who are like something. When Sharon was speaking, it reminded me of like social media. I used to be on Facebook and Instagram, and there's this little bid, right, of is it serotonin? There's something that you get when someone likes, your image or your words or your share. And it is that same thing that you're saying, Sharon. It's like, oh, okay, I'm approved of right now. Now I need something else. And I have, younger, my daughters are 18 and 20, and I've seen that they and their friends have they're so plugged into receiving from that kind of attention. And it feels important to assist them in whatever way without, but to show them that their value is here, it's inherent, it's within them. They are, beautiful, incredible human beings, and a like on, a social media site or a view on a Snapchat or whatever it is for them that they're getting those hits from. It's a low frequency. It holds a certain energy, and it creates like this need for more, like Sharon was describing.
Yeah.
I could see it that way.
Hey, you guys know what I think some of the most incredible receivers are, and you can find them, if you look for it, and that are athletes. And I only pay attention to the young people, just college or something like that. I don't follow or know any pros very much, but I pay attention to that just because I'm in a university setting, and you've always heard of people, the schools, and so you just relate to it, can relate to it somewhat, and then you have access, and it's very interesting, the coaching programs and the personalities, and you can always tell the ones who the coaches and the entire staff, that have a certain standard, and they hold this and they impart this to the young people, or sometimes some of the young people, bring it in. But it's very interesting to watch, the athlete, because they're interviewed and they're on the spot, and and they're on the TV, and they're clamored after, and they're asked and all, and you can always tell. And so they're telling them something or trying to give them, or, you know, saying how wonderful, or you saved the game, or you know, it was because of you, or what do you think about the winning, or, you know, or all that. And it's just the grace, the elegance, you can tell that, you know, their energy is just so this, because they just take it in stride. You know, they just receive it with such, okay, you know, I received this, and then they can go on and say, well, you know, my team, or, well, we practiced that, or we, you know, and then they share in the compliment or the glory, or something, you know, or something like that. Where you can tell the other ones, when they get the praise or given the credit, it's almost like it's never enough for them, you know, because
you're saying you see the two different types of people if you're watching athletes. You can see one that receives well and one that doesn't. Yeah. And I also think, and this is a question maybe we'll get to more on the next call, because I think Deborah had something to say was, you know, is it easier to receive some things and not other things? Because these athletes may be good at receiving that area, maybe not at other. But I like the idea that you can watch, if you want to see the difference in how people receive, that's a great showcase to see that. And Deborah, you wanted to say something earlier, right? I know you had your mute off before, yeah.
I was just going to, yeah, I mean, pretty much I agree with everything that everyone said. But I was just thinking on my own, what helped me receive. I feel like I'm in full abundance receptive mode at the moment. And I think it does go in kind of layers, and I think it depends on who you're wanting to receive from, who we're talking about, because, you know, we've talked a lot, like Blissa's friend, and like you said, Sandy, about you know, if it's like receiving compliments and things like that, or gifts, you know, it's like you said, what helped me with that was that when I want to give a gift or give a compliment and someone doesn't receive it, and the pleasure of giving is taken away. So that really helped me receive compliments and receive gifts quite happily, without the string that you talked about, that Troy mentioned, you know, you've got to give back, because you know how you feel when you want to give, you know, obviously it's a joy giving from others, and also but also receiving from the universe, you know, because it's like Ahmet said, he said trust. And I agree completely, because of faith. I always say faith. Faith carries you to miracles. I really believe that. And so faith helps you receive miracles or what have you, isn't it? So, and then it depends where you're wanting to receive from, because what came up actually in the messages yesterday was you have to believe to receive. And when we understand that we create our reality based on our beliefs, so believing is receiving. So, for example, if you believe that, like Blissa's friend, you believe that you're worthy of that compliment, you'd love yourself, you believe that you're worthy of it, then you will receive it, you know. But also, if you, I mean, what is it that you want to believe in? If you believe in yourself, or you believe in the angels, or you could believe that you have God's power flowing through you. You are God, and we have the power of God flowing through us. If you choose to believe that, you will receive. And it's so basically, I see a connection there with belief and receiving. And the other step that really made a big difference to me personally on my journey was when a mentor of mine, very dedicated, every day for 2 years, she just kept reminding me that there is only me. And everything outside of me is a reflection of a part of me, which is why we can have these beautiful groups of self-love and appreciation, because that's how we get that flow, because we're reflecting back to each other, you know. And so if there is only you, I think that makes it a lot easier to love yourself and to not selfish. You know, people say you have to go through a selfish stage. I don't mean selfish in a selfish way. I mean selfish as in a put yourself first. when you realize that there is only you have to put yourself first, don't you? Because there is only you, right?
Yeah. It's interesting when you said the word selfish, I thought self-ish. Like, like about self, and you're being, like you say, well, I'll be there about 10-ish, that means you'll be there around 10 o'clock, or you're being around self-ish. Anyway, so I love that. I think, so we're about at our time, and we have a lot more, I think, to go over for next week and talk about how we get to this point. But before we conclude part one of this two-part series, anyone have anything else they want to just add right now, or shall we conclude this for part one? Okay, I think that was a perfect place to stop. So thanks for chiming in with that, Deborah, very much. And by the way, I missed your, because you do a weekly free channel reading on Facebook where you do tarot cards, but it's more just channeled reading, which is, I love and tune in every week, but I didn't listen to Sundays yet, so I'll have to go listen to it. Anyway, thank you all so much. That concludes part one of our two-part series on receiving, and we'll be back next week.